Hey, what's up? My name is Gabby. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be doing a very exciting video that I've been wanting to do for years, and that is going to be my all-time favorite thriller mystery books. I've been asked to make this video a few times since on my channel I typically do thriller book recommendation videos. I've done like 8 or maybe 9 of them so far, so I'll have those linked down below if you want to see more of my thriller recommendations, but these books are going to be my top favorites that are from each of those videos that I've done over the years. These are going to be my absolute god tier top favorite thrillers that I've ever read. But before we do jump into the books, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to a new sponsor on this channel, which is GlassesUSAcom. If you didn't notice these absolutely adorable new glasses that I'm wearing that I'm obsessed with, by cutting out the middleman, GlassesUSAcom offers prescription glasses and sunglasses up to 70% off retail prices. You can shop for all your eyewear needs online at affordable prices without leaving your home. GlassesUSA.com offers over 9,000 styles of eyeglasses and sunglasses, including in-house brands and designer brands. A complete pair of eyeglasses and sunglasses starts at just $30. Basic prescription lenses are included with every frame, even including the premium brands such as Ray-Ban and Oakley. Shopping online at GlassesUSA.com means a risk-free shopping experience. They have free shipping and returns, 100% money-back guarantee, and a 365-day product warranty. GlassesUSA.com is also the perfect place to stock up and save on contact lenses, which I think is really awesome because I'm a huge fan of wearing contacts when I go to work. You get 25% off all contact lens brands, and they're available with any prescription for all uses. GlassesUSA.com even has a virtual try-on tool on the website, which really helps you find the right pair. I used it to find mine and it was super helpful. GlassesUSA.com was kind enough to send me a few different pairs to try on. These ones are ones that I really enjoy because I love the roundness of them. I don't really have any glasses that look like this, and I just think that they're so cute. They also did send me these ones, which are also really cute. I don't have any glasses that have this kind of like tortoise color on the sides here, and I love the shape of these. I love that they're like somewhere in between boxy and circular. They also sent me these, which are like a clear pink color, and I'm so happy with these because I feel like these ones look like the glasses that I wear every day, but I love the color on these ones. I feel like they just look so cool, and I'm so excited to have a change in my appearance with the glasses that I wear. I think these ones look really cool. Then lastly, they sent this really cute pair of sunglasses. I'm not much of a sunglasses wearer myself. Like, I don't usually wear sunglasses because my eyes aren't super sensitive to light, but these ones are so freaking cute, and I cannot wait to wear these. Like, I feel like I'll genuinely wear these all the time because I just love the shape of them and I love the feel and the look. Please use my link at the top of the description box for GlassesUSA.com. You can find my glasses online by signing up for 65% off your first pair. They also do include adding a blue light option on your lenses if that's also something that you would want to check out. Yeah, thank you so much once again to GlassesUSA.com for sponsoring today's video, and now let's get into my favorite thriller books, shall we? So if you've been following my channel for a really long time, then some of these books probably won't come as any of a surprise to you because these are typically the thrillers that I tend to talk about the most because they're my favorites, you know, they're my god tier, they're my top tier faves. And so the first stack of thrillers that I wanted to go through are the ones that I've been a fan of the longest, like the ones that really made me a thriller reader avidly. The first one is going to be Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. This is kind of the book that started it all for me. I read this book at the beginning of 2014, and then that kind of kicked off my love for reading again. Like, I really became an active reader again after reading this book, and this book is like the classic thriller, you know? Like, if you have not been spoiled for this plot twist, then I highly suggest reading this book. It's the classic, you know, wife went missing, but what actually happened to her is the husband responsible, kind of like typical thriller setup, but it just has one of the best plot twists that I've ever read about in a book, and it has one of my favorite characters that I've ever read about in a book, and I've read this book twice and I just absolutely love it. The audiobook is also fantastic, and I just think overall this is a really well written book. Like, despite it being a thriller, I just think the writing is also freaking fantastic, and this author just knows and understands these characters so well, and it's impressive. Next up, I have You by Caroline Kepnes. This is probably something you might have heard of because of the Netflix TV show that's super popular now, but I honestly think this first book book is better than the first season of the show. If you didn't know, this book follows this man named Joe Goldberg, who is low-key a stalker. He starts to stalk this girl named Beck, and this book just really makes you think about how much information you might put about yourself online. Absolutely terrifying, so well written, and being in Joe Goldberg's head is just so fascinating, you know? He's just one of those characters that's like, you want to root for him, but you also don't. It's like this mixed confusion. It's like he's an anti-hero. It's like watching Dexter or something, you know? It's just so fascinating to be in the mind of somebody like this, and I just love this thriller. I think it's so good. It's one of my faves. Another one of my favorites is Big Little Lies. I think that this book is just as good as the TV adaptation, so if you're familiar with that, I would still definitely check out this book. I actually saw the TV show before I read this book, and I think it still holds up as one of the best thrillers that I've ever read. And in this book, it's really interesting because we follow this group of moms who are all moms to these like young children. We see this fundraiser night at the school at the beginning of this book, and we know that somebody got murdered on this night, but we don't know who it is, and so we kind of spend the book trying to figure out what exactly happened between all these women. And this book is perfect if you love those, like, you know, small town mom gossip drama vibes. I just thought this book was so well done, and it has like a genuinely good plot twist in this. And there's a lot of discussion in this book about feminism and rape culture and different things like that I think are so important to discuss, so I just loved everything about this book. Another one of my all-time faves that I read a long time ago is The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson. This is by far my favorite Peter Swanson book, and I do consider him to be one of my favorite authors because of how much I loved this book. And this book, from what I heard, is kind of like a Strangers on a Train premise, because it follows this man who goes to this airport and he meets this woman at the bar at the airport, and he's venting to her about how he really wants to kill his wife because he's just so sick of her shit. And then the girl suggests that she thinks he should do it and that she can help him do it. And so it's about how you can meet a stranger in a bar and how they can persuade you to commit acts of violence that you might have never actually committed if it wasn't for them. It's a wild story. It's a really good time. There's so many good plot twists in this book. And then I have The Silent Patient, which this one is such a great thriller. This one has one of the best plot twists, I think, that I've ever read in a book. Like, I literally could not believe that I didn't see this shit coming. Oh my god. This one mostly takes place in a mental hospital. We're following this woman who randomly shot her husband in the face 5 times and then stopped speaking afterwards, and we don't know her motives for why she did it. And then we also follow this psychotherapist named Theo who is coming to the mental hospital to talk to Alicia, and he's gonna be the one to try and get her to talk to him about what happened. This book is just, it's crazy. That ending, you will be like, what did I just read? What happened? Oh my gosh. Another one of my absolute faves is The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. This book has the best kind of like spooky vibes, which is part of the reason why I love it so much. And in this book, we're following this nanny who goes to work in this smart house that may or may not be haunted. And she's taking care of these children who are just absolutely demonic, crazy children. This one is a retelling of that book, The Turn of the Screw, which I have not actually read, but I feel like I need to because I feel like a lot of my favorite things in this world are adaptations or different versions of that book. And yeah, this book was a 10 out of 10. Loved it so much. It's the only Ruth Ware book that I've truly loved. So yeah, this one I highly recommend. And I would also recommend The Nesting by CJ Cook because these two are kind of similar in the sense that they both follow a nanny who's gonna have to take care of these children, and they both have possibly maybe haunted houses in these books. And this one takes place in Norway. This one, I just read it last October and it's already an all-time favorite. Like, I loved this so much, and it describes itself as a modern gothic thriller. And I would definitely agree with that. I think this one's so good. Another book that has all the spooky vibes is Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. I know you were probably thinking, when is this book gonna show up on this list? Because y'all know I never shut up about Lock Every Door. This is by far my favorite Riley Sager still. This one, you know, it follows this woman who is gonna go live in this apartment building in New York that may or may not be haunted. And she's basically getting paid to live there, which is very suspicious. Like, this premise is so strange because she's gonna get paid to live in this apartment building, but there's all these freaky rules. Like, she can't have any guests, and she has to stay the night in the room. She can't go into any of the other guests' rooms overnight. There's just some very strange rules happening in this place, and the girl that was staying in her apartment before her went missing. And so there's just a lot of creepy mystery happening in this book. It's fantastic. I would also say Home Before Dark by Riley Sager is another one of my favorites. This one has the most Haunting of Hill House vibes. I love this thriller. It feels like it's almost on the verge of a horror novel, like it fits somewhere in between. And it's just so freaking good. It's so spooky, and it also has one of my favorite tropes that's a book within a book, because, you know, we're following this girl who grew up in this maybe haunted house, and her dad wrote this book called The House of Horrors. And so in alternate chapters, we get to see the dad's book, and then in the present day chapters, we follow her as she's an adult, and her dad has recently passed away, and she's gonna be going back to the house to clear out some stuff, and maybe she's thinking maybe it is haunted, like she don't know. And then I have Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. This book is one of my all-time favorite thrillers, but it's for reasons that you might not think, you know, because I would say that this book is pretty predictable when it comes to thrillers, and I don't think there's anything necessarily super shocking about this plot, but I love this book because I absolutely love the mother-daughter relationship in this book, and this is one of the few thrillers that have made me emotional. Like, I got emotionally attached and it nearly made me cry. All we know in this story is that we're following this mother who her daughter went missing like 10 years ago or something crazy like that, and that's all we know. And it's a really stunning, beautiful story. It's my favorite Lisa Jewell book. It is just so freaking good. And then I do have a book that I love because of the plot twist, and that is Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough. This book has probably the most shocking plot twist at the end of a book that I've ever read, and I know that this plot twist does piss off a lot of people, and I can understand why, but I personally loved it so much. Like, I love being surprised, even if the plot twist is kind of ridiculous. Like, if it's a good twist and I did not see that shit coming, then I will be stoked, you know, I'll be satisfied. And this book, all we know going into it is that it follows this woman who goes out one night and she meets this man, and I can't remember if they like hook up or not, but then she goes to work on Monday and finds out that this man is her new boss. And so there's already this kind of awkward, you know, and it's kind of about this woman trying to figure out what's going on with this man and his wife. It's just a very interesting trio going on in this book, and it just has one of the most shocking plot twists that you'll ever read in a book, probably. Like, you probably won't be able to guess this ending, you know? It's just wild. And then I have The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay. It's unclear to me if this should be categorized more as a thriller or a horror, because I do think it falls into both genres, but for the sake of this video, I'm calling it a thriller. This is one of my absolute god tier faves. And in this book, we're following these two gay men and their adopted daughter, Wen, and they're staying at this cabin that's like out in the middle of nowhere, and then these four people show up on their doorstep, and it becomes this terrifying home invasion story, and these four people are asking something of them, and it's just the most terrifying situation. Like, I would never want to be in a situation like this, and it's just so terrifying because the shit feels so real, you know, like the shit could happen, and that's just so scary. And I love the ambiguity of this story, which I know is something that a lot of people hate about it, but I personally love when stories can be a little bit ambiguous and just make you think, you know, and make you question what is real and what's not real. Another one of my favorites is The Guest List by Lucy Foley, which I know a lot of people think this book is overhyped and they're probably sick and tired of hearing me talk about this book, but I think this book is so much fun, you know? It's like the classic whodunit kind of story. This entire book takes place during a wedding on an island in Ireland, and it just has the best like spooky, rainy, island vibes. We're following this entire wedding party, and all we know at the start of this book is that somebody in the wedding party got murdered and somebody else did it, and we don't know who. And it's like this classic story of who done it, and it's like once you figure out who did get killed, every single person has a motive to kill this person, and so it just makes it so interesting and so much fun. Another one of my favorite thrillers is Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter, even though this book is a lot. And I will warn you that this is probably one of the most graphically violent books that I've ever read, so much to the point where I think it's a little bit too much for me at times. Regardless, this book is an all-time favorite for me because of the sister relationship in this book, and because this is one of the only thrillers on this earth that have made me bawl my eyes out, like gross sobbing at the end of this book. And this is just a thriller reading experience like I've never had before. Like, I've never gotten so like nauseous and almost like sick over a book, but then cared so much about what would happen to these characters. And in this book, I almost think it's better to not know too much going in, because I almost do think the premise of this book kind of spoils like a little thing about the plot. At least something that's mentioned in the premise doesn't really happen until like nearly 100 pages in, if I remember correctly. So I would just recommend not really knowing too much about it going in, but what I can tell you about it is that we're following this woman in this book, and she discovers something that her husband might be up to that is very sinister, and she tries to discover, she like digs into his stuff and tries to figure out what exactly is going on with him, and it's unsettling, it's disturbing, it's very intense. Another one of my all-time favorites is gonna be The One by John Mars. This one is just the most unique, really cool premise for a thriller. I love that this kind of feels like a Black Mirror episode or something, because it's like a sci-fi thriller in a way, because it takes place in a future world where people can take a DNA test to find out who the one is for them. So I think this book is implying the fact that soulmates do exist. The idea that we could just take a DNA test and find out who our one person is that we're meant to be with, it's just so cool. But then I love that this is like a thriller take on this world, because we follow a bunch of really different interesting people. So we follow like, I think it's 5 different points of views in this book, and it's really cool because one of the perspectives we get is a serial killer dude. That's not a spoiler or anything, because it's like one of the first chapters you read in this book, and it's just so freaking cool following along with this serial killer who's trying to figure out who his match is. Like, can you imagine if your match was with a serial killer? Like, it's just such a cool book. This book had so much great romance in it too. Like, there was a romance in this book that I was just like, I was like rooting for it, you know, it was beautiful. And then another book that I do consider to be one of my all-time favorites, but I don't know if this is classified as a thriller or not, but it felt wrong to not include this book on this list, is Long Bright River by Liz Moore, because I don't necessarily know if I personally classify this as a thriller. I think I would call it more literary mystery, but I know a lot of people do consider this book to be a thriller, so I thought I'd include it on this list anyways. But this book is just so freaking stunning and so beautiful. We're following this woman who's a cop, and she's working in Philadelphia where there's a really bad opioids crisis happening, and her sister is a drug addict, and all of these women in the town keep turning up dead. And now she can't find her sister. Like, her sister's gone missing, and she's trying to figure out what happened and what's going on, and this book is just so intense. Like, there's just something about this book that I just really, really love, and I don't ever know how to explain what it is about it that I love so much, because not only do I love, obviously, like the sister relationship, I also just love the atmosphere in this book. It honestly reminds me of one of my favorite movies, Prisoners, and I don't know if that's just because of the constant, like, rainy, snowy vibes, and like the vibes that the Philadelphia setting in this book gives me. Like, it makes me want to live there. Like, I don't know what it is. I just love it so much. And then the last 4 books that I have on this list are all books that I've read this year that I already know are gonna go down as all-time favorite books for me. So to start, I have Finlay Donovan is Killing It. This one is one that I would classify as more of a fun murder mystery thriller kind of vibe. This book is different from all the others on this list because I think this one can be considered a cozy mystery, like whatever that means. But in this book, we're following this crime writer named Finlay Donovan, and she's at a Panera Bread with her agent, and she's discussing her next book, which involves a lot of like murder and stuff, you know? And somebody overhears her in this Panera Bread, and they think that she's talking about like real life murder. So then they like low-key casually offer her $50,000 to kill their husband. And this book is just about how Finlay gets involved in some crazy shenanigans with these people, and it's just so good. It's so much fun. I adore Finlay's character. All of the characters in this book are so wholesome, and this book genuinely has a good mystery, and it's genuinely a good thriller that's happening, but it's also so lighthearted. It's kind of a lot like the TV show Dead to Me is how I always compare it to, you know, but just because it gives me that same, like, yeah, it's a murder mystery, so it's kind of intense, but it's also just really fun. And the great news is that this is actually the first book in a series. The author has announced that there will be 4 books, and it's already getting a TV adaptation. There's just so much to look forward to. I love this book so freaking much, and I already know it's a new all-time favorite of mine. Another one of my new all-time favorites is gonna be In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead, because this book has the best like kind of dark academia vibes. It's a thriller that takes place on a college campus. We're actually following these characters 10 years after college, but they're gonna be coming back to the college for like a homecoming, you know, reunion of sorts. And we're following this girl Jessica in the group, and Jessica's kind of like this narcissistic personality almost. Like, I don't even know if we can trust her as a protagonist. But basically, in their friend group 10 years ago when they were in college, one of their friends was murdered and another one of their friends was accused of the murder. And now, 10 years later, they're going to be coming back to the school to try and figure out like what actually happened and who is actually responsible. And this book is just It's so good. It has the best vibes and it has a really great romance, which is so rare in thrillers. Like, I've never really cared about romance in thriller books, but this one has such a great romance happening in it, and it's like a love triangle too, and it's just so juicy. And I just loved this cast of characters. I loved this mystery of what actually happened to their friend. I feel like every single one of their friends had motive to kill this person. It was just so fascinating, so well done. The ending had some of the best plot twists ever, and I was just genuinely like so hyped after I finished this book, and I can't wait to reread it again, and that's how I know it's an all-time favorite. I just know. And then I have Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. This is another thriller that I very recently just read like a few months ago, and this one I already know is gonna be an all-time favorite of mine because it's this beautiful ass revenge story, which is surprising because revenge stories usually are not my favorite. But in this book, we're following these two men, and their names are Ike and Buddy, and they just make the most interesting, iconic duo that I've ever read about. Ike is a black man and Buddy is a white man, and they find out that both of their gay sons that are married have been murdered because they're gay. And this book just touches on so many important topics like homophobia and racism. And this book is about these two men who are getting revenge on the people who murdered their sons. And it's just one of the most powerful books that I've ever read. I do think this is another book where there's a lot of graphic violence in this book, like way more violence than I was anticipating. Both of these men are also ex-cons, so there's also a lot of discussion about their mistrust of police and how, you know, that's basically why they're taking it upon themselves to get revenge for their sons, because they don't trust that the police will do anything. And this book was just stunning. It was absolutely stunning, and this was another thriller that made me bawl my eyes out. Like, this one made me cry so hard at the end of this book. Like, it was beautiful. Like, when there's tears in the title, like, they were not kidding. And yeah, even though I just read it, I already know it's gonna be a favorite. It's just so freaking good. And then the last book that I have on this list is a book that I just read so recently. I just read this last month, but I already know that this one will be an all-time favorite because I want to push this book onto everyone already, and it's Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. And I've considered myself a fan of Alice Feeney. Like, I've read all 4 of her books so far, but this one is by far her best book in my opinion. This book follows this married couple who's been married for 10 years, and now they kind of feel like they might be falling out of love and just like they don't want to be married anymore. And so she wins this trip that's going to take them to this little chapel that's like out in the middle of nowhere during this blizzard, like snowstorm, and she thinks it'll be like a cozy getaway for them to kind of like reconnect and, you know, figure out where they go from here. But also, this chapel is like really spooky, and it maybe might be haunted. Like, there's just some weird shit going on in this chapel, and it's like, you know, a snowstorm, so it's just like not the best time. We follow the couple in the present day when they're going to the chapel, but then in alternate chapters we do get letters that she's written to her husband over the last 10 years that kind of fills in the gaps for you about like what their relationship is and what happened with them and different things like that. And I just think this book was so freaking good, not only because of the creepy ambiance, you know, because as I said, I love spooky shit in thrillers. It's one of my favorite things to have in thrillers. Like, if there's some kind of spooky, maybe it's paranormal, maybe it's haunted vibes, I am here, sign me the fuck up. That's my favorite shit. And so because of that happening in the beginning of this book, I was already obsessed. At the end of this book, we get like plot twist after plot twist after plot twist. Like, I could not believe that I did not see this shit coming. This has one of the most clever, smart plot twists that I've seen in a book in a long time. And so I was very stoked about this book. I love it so much. It's definitely a new all-time favorite. Highly recommend. I think this would be especially great to read at a snowy time of year because the snowy atmosphere in this book is just amazing, you know? It's so great. So yeah, those are all of the different thriller books that I consider to be all-time favorite books. It was really hard to narrow this list down because, you know, I just have so many thrillers that I genuinely love, and, you know, I've been recommending thrillers for years, and I do genuinely love all of the thrillers that I recommend in those videos, but these ones are like the top tier ones that stick out to me the most. Like, when people ask me what's my favorite thriller book, these are the ones that come to mind first. And so yeah, that is a wrap. That is all of the things. If you've read any of these books, please let me know what are your thoughts on them. And also, if you have any other thriller recommendations for me that you think I would enjoy, let me know that as well. Yeah, don't forget to check out the link for GlassesUSAcom in my description. These glasses are seriously so adorable and so affordable, especially compared to other websites that sell glasses. These are spectacular and they're so high quality and so cute. And thanks so much again to GlassesUSA.com for sponsoring today's video. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching and for hanging out, and I will see you very soon with another video. Bye.